You want to make big money finding treasure at yard sales? I did find this beautiful mirror, and it just may be a treasure. And I want to show you how you can restore this to some value, maybe a lot of value. Stick around. All right, well, welcome back. I'm Tom McLaughlin, and this is Epic Woodworking. I wanted to get into this restoration project. Now, you're used to me dealing with new furniture. We're usually fixing up stuff. Making new from scratch. But I do like to find jewels, hidden jewels at yard sales or little antique stores, and try to find something that has some real value that may be restorable. Just recently, the camera lady and I went down to the center of Canterbury where they had a little kind of yard sale antiquing gathering. And I saw this mirror and actually went back for it. There's a mirror behind here, and I taped it off because we're going to do a little finishing around here. This is quarter sawn oak. You can see by the flecking here and the very linear kind of combed grain. And look at this beautiful kind of doweled, rounded piece here where you're seeing that diagonal flecking pattern. So you've got a really nice tight quarter sawn grain, and you can tell that they selected this piece especially for that crowning element. And then you've got this nice carved scroll work on the sides here. And machine made, possibly, but it looks like there were some hand tools definitely taken to it. So on the back, this gives it away a little bit. We've got, look at this backer board. This is solid pine, one board all the way across. And it's a little less than a 1/4 inch, I can see. And it was just planed, and it's got pretty nice grain on there, but they nailed it right on to cover the glass. Now, you may have detected something else. You see these little lighter spots right here and over here with the screw holes in it? Now you remember. You may have had a piece of furniture like this or seen it at your grandmother's house, but this would have been a mirror that would sit on the back of a chest of drawers. So like that on the back, and that lighter spot with the screw holes is where there would have been a cleat joining this mirror to the back of the chest. And it's 42 inches long. But when I saw it at the yard sale, I thought, gosh, that's such a nice piece of quarter sawn walnut all around. I mean, to buy quarter sawn walnut right now, I was looking at it, it's between $10 and $15 a board foot. So not cheap. And would you believe what we paid for this? With the raised panel mirror, which you can't even see. We got it late in the day for $20. The whole mirror, $20.
Can you believe it?
It's unbelievable. So anyway, as you can see on this, there's been some changes. Maybe you can't. On this side, I've already done some finishing work. That was for the photo that you can see in the thumbnail. On this side, I actually did some work. It looked drier and worse than this. The original photo is there on the thumbnail picture for this video. So check it out. It's this half is all dried out. Now, I haven't touched anything up here because I needed to go ahead and do this first stage so I could show you part of this process. That's the tough thing about finishing videos is you can't wait for things to dry, and unless you have a bunch of them. But what I want to show you is the way I go about like restoring a piece like this. I don't do a lot of this because it's not considered from the golden age of furniture making where you get a lot of bang for your time, but this could be repurposed. You could find a chest that's missing one of these mirrors, a quarter sawn oak chest, or you could make this into a wall hanging mirror. And I was thinking about it, it'd be pretty interesting if you just got some quarter sawn white oak, maybe a piece about 4 inches wide or so. It's coming out 4 inches, and attach it to the base. Maybe put a little molded edge on the underneath, and it could hang on the wall. It definitely would have some use. But I thought most of all, it would be fun to see if we could make it look nicer. But here's the thing. When I get to a piece like this, the first thing you want to do is just clean it without hurting the old finish. Sometimes the pieces of such value and age, you do not want to strip it. We've all seen those episodes on Antiques Roadshow where the person is so excited about the beautiful heirloom piece of furniture they got. It looked so lousy, they decided to strip it and refinish it. And much to their dismay, it's worth tens of thousands of dollars less because they did that. So that's not really a big concern with a piece like this. It's from the period where furniture started getting more manufactured. It wasn't made in the older ways. So that's why we talk about the golden age of furniture, predating 1850-ish, prior, getting to the turn of the Industrial Revolution. So, but these early pieces, this I would guess is around 1900, give or take. And these early ones were made still with craftsmanship and thoughtfulness. Like if this was a mass-produced piece these days, do you think they would have carefully chosen like this primo piece to put on this crown and put it there? The wood is beautifully laid out. The carvings are actually quite nice. I think they were treated with hand carved, even if they were sawn out. I see some bandsaw marks here. And of course we saw the back panel is solid, and I can even feel some plane marks on it. So it's got some value, but let's go ahead and look at it. So I know from this period of time that most finishes were shellac on a lot of these older pieces. Shellac was considered a spirit varnish. It was actually a type of varnish. Spirit because it like evaporated, the alcohol that dissolves it evaporated, and it's a fast drying finish, but quite durable. They used to do floors all the time with it, you know. But then during the war, World War II, they discovered lacquer. And then that started being used a lot on furniture. And then later on, we have these bomb-proof finishes that are sprayed on furniture these days sometimes. But still, lacquer is quite popular because it's fast drying and a little more durable than shellac. But the thing is, you know, you can guess that this might be shellac, but if you wanted to coat over it, you want to know you're going over something that's compatible. So one little test you can do is take a little Q-tip, and if you get some denatured alcohol, or I'm not sure, rubbing alcohol should work too, but denatured alcohol, any strong alcohol. We do put links to this. This is 190 proof, but find an inconspicuous spot, usually in the back of a chest of drawers or something. Look, I already did it here, so I'm gonna have to fix that, but I'll show you from the same spot. Just rubbing the alcohol, if it's shellac, it will dissolve it, right? You already know the answer, because you can see that. If it's lacquer, it won't. The alcohol is not like a hot enough solvent to melt the lacquer. So we know right here that this is shellac, and we can proceed going right directly over it with shellac without a worry. Now, before we go ahead and finish it, you want to clean it. So that's what I mentioned earlier. And you can use something like this TSP. You know, if it's a different kind of piece, you could mix this up, but this is water-based. It's a really good cleaner, heavy duty. It'll get in there. You can clean like painted furniture, whatever you find from yard sales or whatnot. But I often, with just furniture like this, it's close to clean, but there's a lot of grime on it. I already went over it, but I like just using paint thinner. Okay, paint thinner will not hurt the shellac. So we're just gonna put a little on a piece of steel wool, and up here where I haven't done it yet, and look at how the color comes back just by doing this. That's like the oil It's a petroleum distillate, the paint thinner. And so it's almost like a solvent type, an oil-based solvent is getting on the wood, but then it'll evaporate. So this is acting as a scouring pad, but very gentle, and gets a lot of that dirt and grime off.
Tom, did you say anything about walnut on this piece, or was it all white oak?
This is all white oak. Yeah, no walnut. No, but you know, the earlier Victorian period had lots of walnut.
So would you say this is from, or reflects anything Victorian in that period?
It's kind of transitionary. This is like late Victorian, early Craftsman period when they started using a lot of quarter sawn white oak for lots of pieces, quarter and rift sawn. But this has a little decorative scroll work here, which was more representative of the prior Victorian period. Look at this. I'm going to wipe this on here, and look at that grime and dirt just on that finish. So you want to do this to clean it off, and also to remove any waxes that might have been applied. The solvent, the paint thinner, will cut and take away wax as well. So using that 4/0 steel wheel I used, it was very thin, very fine, wouldn't hurt the finish. And in fact, it may even brighten it up a little bit.
Gorgeous.
But there you go. So now, this finish is in pretty good condition, right? You could see how nice it looked just with that, but it's dried out so much on the end that it really needs to be revived a little bit. Now, I'm not going to hurt it by doing what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to refresh it with one of two finishes. Either just like a direct wiping oil varnish, like Danish oil, a thin one, okay? Or I could go on it with shellac. So I want to show you both just real quick. I'm going to just wipe this on and wipe it off but this Danish oil, it's a very thin kind of oil finish. And one of the nice things about Danish oil is it's very compatible with shellac and a lot of other finishes. So if you find old pieces like this, this is the most dirt simple, quick and dirty way to revive a yard sale find. Okay, you could find something like this, and if I was trying to turn this over fast, if I was a wheeler dealer selling, I would clean it up and just wipe on Danish oil and call it a day. If it was rough, you might have to lightly sand it with thin paper. But let me just see what it looks like. It's gonna look, I know, I haven't tried it yet, but it's because it's oil-based, it's going to look a lot like the paint thinner just did. It's going to brighten it up.
Tony's asking, does the shellac keep the Danish oil from soaking into the wood? Yes and no. Yeah, the shellac is a sealer, basically. But this is a porous wood, so it is going to get in the pores. There was clearly some type of brown finish applied here as well. Because if you look closely over here, I haven't done anything to it over here. All the pores, this is an open pore wood, open grain wood, like white oak, has a dark color to it. And that's not natural to shellac. And so that was put on more than likely after the wood was sealed with shellac. So this will probably go into those pores. And but let's just look at it. It's going to look beautiful, I bet. But this is all you do. You take it and wipe it on, and it would come back to life. Look at that. And this will dry fairly flat, but it will leave this richer color on it, you know? It'll give you that revived color. So this actually is in quite good shape. And honestly, if you were trying to make a buck on this, this is what you would do, you know? You probably would just stop after this. I would put it on and look, just wipe it off.
almost like using a polish, okay? So you're leaving so little on there. It's like you're putting a little polish on. Let me hold it up and you can see it. Isn't that great? I mean, it's like nothing. Now that's gonna dry and it's gonna look pretty sweet. It's going to have revived the finish without you really, it's almost like a very thin oil polish. But it's leaving a very slight film on there as well and brings it back to life a bit. Now, what I prefer to do is I also want to show you the shellac technique because you're not often going to get a piece that's in such good shape. I'm going to wipe that off because I'm going to end up shellacking this. But it's a similar process. We will clean the piece down nicely, and then you're going to put a sealer coat on of shellac.
Lupe's asking, how about cleaning the piece with paint thinner and then spray a thin coat or two of shellac on?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you could spray it. Yeah. If you didn't want to go with the Danish oil, like that's the quickest, dirtiest way. Like a lot of pieces can be revived with just Danish oil. And sometimes you're going to see little dings or marks where you can use a touch-up marker like this, which I did not put in the notes, but this is from Mohawk. And these are just like marking pens. They're just like magic markers, but they come in different colors of wood. You do it on your fingers so people can... But that's like a walnut brown, right? So that would actually be nice here. We've got a little light spot here. Now I like to use it not over bare wood, but know that it's sealed. And if I was going to touch that little whitish spot up, I would just touch it with the tip and then blend it out with my finger. It's kind of absorbing in there. I'm going to wait on this actually. I'm going to put the shellac on and come back on that. It's getting right in that pour. I don't know if you can even see it in the camera. Can you?
Well, I'm
You
not
probably
sure
can't
what you're seeing that we...
Okay, this is working better between the pour. So that little drop, and then I just rub it out. I remember seeing Pug do this so many times. He would just touch a ding, and you just blend out right out like that. Okay, that's with these. You also give your finger a nice coloration. You could.
Have you ever used a coat of wax as the final treatment, Dan's asking?
Yeah, yes, Jen. Yeah, that would be optional. Like after you can really brighten it up. Like after you've given the Danish oil good time to dry. You could wipe on 2 thin coats like that. But the thing about the Danish oil is you need a lot of dry time. So either method, Danish oil or shellac, it's great to finish with wax. I'll show you that right at the end here. We'll just do a quick little demo of this. I'm going to use some shellac that I mixed up myself. So it's this here. It's an orange, a light orange shellac. And I've got in here, you can buy these crystals. This is a light orange. Sometimes they call it amber shellac, but that's a pretty light one. And then these are from Wood Finishing Enterprises. This is a de-waxed orange shellac. So shellac has naturally occurring wax in it. And this is, look at that, that's orange, but it's much redder and darker. So this is a lighter orange, but they come in various shades. This would give you a little warmer kind of antique-y look on some woods, like darker woods. I wouldn't use this on really light colored woods, but on these darker wood tones, it looks gorgeous. So we've got kind of a light orange here. Now, you don't have to go through the trouble of mixing up your own shellac like this, although if you've heard me, you know I like to do that occasionally. You can buy it pre-mixed. Like this, the Zinsser has a clear shellac, or bullseye shellac. And this is like this clear, but even more refined. So it's very light colored. And then they have another version of this blonde type shellac
that is wax free. So they've taken the wax out of this and they call it seal coat. It's the same company. It's very similar, but it's a little lighter coloration. It's almost clear, but it has a little amber tint to it. This is awesome for sealing wood under any finish, really. It even says on the can, I believe, you can use it under all kinds of varnishes and whatnot. Oh, here it is. Yeah, graziosa para todos. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Yeah, guaranteed under all clear finishes. Oil-based, water-based polyurethanes, lacquer, catalyzed finish, epoxy, and varnish. So it's an amazing sealing type finish, which comes in handy if you're trying to make sure you don't have a bad reaction with the next finish. So we've got that, and then the last one is, did I bring it over? Maybe I didn't bring the can up. But it's just orange shellac or true amber. The can is very similar, but it's just more of an orange cast to the can, which will give you more of this for darker woods. All right, now, when you buy these finishes, like the regular standard clear and orange, it comes as a 3-pound cut, which simply means 3 pounds of these flakes dissolved into 1 gallon of alcohol. Okay, that's a 3-pound cut. So you get a lot of shellac in there. A 1-pound cut would simply be 1 pound of shellac flakes. That's how much comes in a container like this, to 1 gallon. So it's however much is dissolved in ratio into 1 gallon of alcohol. So the seal coat comes as a 2-pound cut. So don't think you got more. This clear and the orange comes as a 3. Now, when I mix it up myself, quite often I like using it at about a 1.5-pound cut to a 2-pound, like for the later coats. But the 3 is just a little heavy to apply. But one of the wonderful properties of shellac, which was already mentioned, is you can spray it beautifully. But since not everybody has spray equipment, I want to show how beautifully you can brush it on as well. So here we are. We've got our piece is all cleaned off. I cleaned it here already and up here. Let's just brush on some orange shellac. This is fast drying, so you don't want to keep going over it, and don't worry about streaks or anything because it evaporates and it dries pretty level most of the time. But if you do have any brush marks, it's not a problem. You can just sand it flat and then brush on your next coat and it melts right into the previous finish. That's one of the properties of shellac and lacquer. They don't just lay on top and cure. They physically melt into the next one, creating essentially one layer after even 4 coats. It just keeps melting into the previous. So see how nicely that revived and how much you're seeing that kind of old craftsman color that's so beautiful and sought after in this period. And this is really nice wood. We got a steal.
Is the mirror in good shape?
It's in pretty decent shape, yeah, but it's got some of those issues, like you know how they paint them in the back with silver, I believe, and so it shows that it's an older mirror. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It would look like it shows that it's an antique, but it's not unusable by any means. With shellac, it'll go on shiny like this, but I always rub it out at the end with 4-aught steel wool, which polishes it beautifully smooth, but it gives it this elegant, soft gloss, a soft, like almost between satin and gloss, It's a beautiful sheen.
Can you talk about the brush that you're using? What is it?
Oh, it's a cheap brush. It's got like a rubber handle. I just found it. It's like a sash brush, but there's no handle, so you can hold it however you like.
Nothing special to the.
No, sorry. No, I would like to say some high secret, but no. There's nothing special to it. I'm going to put this on the
Do you
top.
have a preference for the kind of brush you would use to apply shellac, or does it not matter?
I just usually use a natural bristle on it, and I keep it marked like this is my shellac brush typically. See the S on there? This was an older Purdy brush, and it's got a natural bristle on it, but because shellac will dissolve in alcohol, your brushes never really go bad. I try to clean them out decently after, but you might find your shellac brush and it'll be kind of stiff. No problem. Just sit it back in some alcohol and it'll soften right up again. Isn't that nice? So the benefits go on and on. No, but it is really a wonderful finish. It can be applied in so many ways. You've heard of French polishing. That's applying it by patting it on, and that's like the ultimate like elegant finish. All right, so there we go. Now, because I just brushed that on, I can't really go heavily into this, but I'll show you what I did down there. There was an area I left so we could go over it, but it's okay. So once I've sealed it and brought it with the shellac again, you can even revive and enrich in the color a little bit more if it's looking kind of blah. Maybe it's a little bleached out as well. You can wipe on a glazing stain, which I'm pretty sure is what they did. So there was some stain applied here. It looks to me like it was after the shellac, because you can see how orange the flecking is on here, and then you've got the stain is all in the pores there. So this was stained, perhaps, I think it's quite likely after a seal coat or wash coat of shellac went on, and then it's continued with more coats. So let me see if I can just show you down here. Sometimes when I'm in a real hurry to make a sample, I break out the heat gun. This is not advisable. You want to give your finish true time to dry, like a couple hours, especially if you make your own and it's only 1.5 pounds. It's going to dry pretty nicely in most conditions except really humid. And I'll just try to evaporate it a little bit. All right, so let's say that had its real time to dry. You'd want to very lightly hit it with some fine sandpaper. I've got some beat down, this is 220. I really prefer to use 320, but since this is beat up a little bit, I would knock this down a little bit because it's a little rough, but not too bad. And then I would wipe on my glazing stain. And here, I'm only going for a tint, so you're gonna wipe it on there. Let's just stop like right here so you can see the difference. You can see how rich that is? It's like, this is a burnt umber, but I added a little Van Dyke brown as well to brown it out. I didn't want it to red out so much. But then you wipe it off. See, it goes back into the pores, and it just enriches and brightens it up a bit more. Let's put a little on here. This is not giving the shellac quite enough time, but you can see the little tonal difference. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but it does make it look rich again. So can you see the difference between this line and here?
Yes.
Between here and here? Okay. So,
It's light, but I can see it.
yeah, I would normally join right across here, but I'm not going to do the whole thing because it's not really dry. But that's what I'll go over with it after. And once that's dry, you want to hit that like after about an hour or so. especially if you're wiping most of it off, you're just leaving this cast of color, this tone, and it's warming it up and bringing it back to that nice, rich, full color that it was originally. And then you're going to seal that in with another coat or two of thin shellac. Now, if you already feel like it's orange enough, like you've got that beautiful Craftsman orange, just go with the clear, okay? But if you still feel like it's a little dry or washed out looking, go with the amber to some degree. And then the final treatment I like to use is get some steel wool. And this is the fine 4/0 steel wool type. Since we've got small areas, sometimes I'll use a felt block, but let's just demonstrate this. So let's look at this. I don't know if can you see this okay?
Yeah, I can see.
I don't know how the
see.
reflection is for you. You're not getting a reflection, are you?
I'm okay.
Okay, so if I'm steel wooling this, right? This has been treated, like I said, it was shellacked, then glazing stain, and then one coat of shellac. I could have put another one on, but I'm just showing you. You can really kind of bear down, and that's the shellac powder. And that burnishes the finish, and it's got a soft sheen. Can you see it? Can you see the difference, how soft that is?
Do you think this was fumed?
I'm not sure. Could have been. Could have been. But then over here, fuming is, by the way, a treatment of like just letting the gas of ammonia react with the tannins in the oak to color it. It gets a warm kind of walnut, like a light walnut color.
No way to tell, huh?
It's hard. I know it has a pigment in it. Like it had a pigmented stain put on it. So that's why what we can see all in the pores and in the carvings. So if you were going to do that, a lot of times they wouldn't also fume it, you know? So, but thank you for mentioning that, because one of the reasons you also want to use glazing stain or think about using it is if you have carvings like this, because the glazing stain goes down into those cracks and crevices, and then when you burnish it away, you're left with these highlights on the top and these little pieces here. And even though you can't get it out of everywhere, it's okay, because see, it gives you this kind of three-dimensional appearance after. It gives a richer look. But this is just right off the shellac. So I would come back here and burnish all this with the fine steel wool. So you're knocking it down and it's getting a little more satiny looking. And it takes away a little bit of the brightness of that shininess, right? The shininess that I got off track a little earlier is what we try to avoid with the urethane finishes. So I like urethane as an additive to other varnishes to add its hardness. Like that's what, because it's so durable. It's great on like our kitchen counter. It's an additive in Armor Seal, a general finish. So what I did was I just rubbed it out to here, because now I want to show you what it looks like when you put the wax on. So this is.
I have a question from Joe. He says, what is the benefit of applying stain before the shellac? I think you did the shellac, then the stain, then another shellac. Is that what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So I applied the shellac as a sealer. Mm-hmm. So the stain I'm putting on is meant more as a tonal stain. So there are tonal type stains, and then there's wood stains where you're putting directly on the wood. When you put a stain on the wood, you have a little less control of it, because it's going to saturate the wood. It's going to go into the end grain and whatever grain, and it's going to do what it does, right? And that's okay. Like if you want that, a lot of times we want to apply stains directly to wood to enhance the figure in the wood or whatnot and get full saturation. But
On a piece like this, it's already been stained. I just want to add a rich tone quality so you can use stain in another way between layers of finish. And shellac is a wonderful vehicle to help you do that because, as we read on that can, it's so compatible with all these other finishes. You just sandwich it in or fry it in, as my real professional finisher friend Mark Adams used to say. We fry in that color between layers of finish. Okay, so shellac in this case. Now I'm putting wax on there, and I like this kind of wax. There are others you can use for sure, but the brie wax, this is a little dried out, so it's probably not going to be great, but this dries nicely without streaking. It's got some kind of hard smelling solvents in it, so you probably want to wear a mask when you use it. But you can get it different colors. This is antique mahogany, so it already comes with a brown. So it doesn't really add a lot of color, but again, it works as the glaze in some sense that it can help highlight variation in carved parts. Now I'm going to just burnish this off. Are you seeing it coming in brighter?
I do. Slight. Can
Wow,
you tell if the
it
carvings
looks
on the top
gorgeous.
rail are applied or relief?
Well, you look at the edge and they are applied. So if we look at the edge right here, see that line? So that was applied. And then you can see like these little saw marks here that go right across the carving. So it was like it was applied and sawn flush afterwards. The whole thing appears to have been sawn. So there was some handwork going on here. And this roll was definitely applied because it's a different grain there. But here's I don't know if you can pick it up in the camera, but this is what I'm always after for a look. Let me see if I can stand it up. This is so rich and so soft, like satiny gloss, because you buff it out with steel wool and then put the wax on. You get this gorgeous, almost French polish looking finish. But here I haven't filled the pores still, so I can still see the pores, but I have nearly a French polish. When the wax goes on, it just fills all that light little scratching by the steel wool, and it brings it back to full depth of color, and it just brightens it up, and it gives it a real classiness because of how beautifully polished and soft it is. All right, so what do you think? Trash or hidden treasure? I think we've got a pretty decent piece here, and maybe we'll finish it out and gift it to someone, huh?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
How about that?
That'd
Yeah.
be great to do. As long as
Well,
you like it.
Once again, if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing. It helps us to get out to a lot more other people and get other people to see this content as well. And also check out our website at epicwoodworking.com if you're interested in courses and joining the neighborhood, where we talk about all kinds of crazy things like restoring that little rocking chair, and you get to see all the live projects as we tape them. So anyway, thanks again for hanging out with us a little bit here in the shop. We love sharing our lives with you and opening our doors to you in this way. So on behalf of the camera lady and myself, look forward to seeing you next time right back here on Shop Night Live. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.